Hello! Thank you so much for joining me for lesson 2 on how to sing harmony. I just have to say that I was so encouraged and relieved that so many of you expressed appreciation for that first video. And in that video, I talked about parallel motion and similar motion, gave you some advice and a little bit of homework, and I talked about some of the really good reasons why it's a good idea for lead singers, aspiring lead singers, to also learn how to sing harmony. In this second lesson today, I'm going to talk about oblique motion and contrary motion. And so ideally what we want to do is we want to take these 4 different motions and we want to mix them together like the ingredients of a casserole, and it can be quite yummy. Can you tell I have not eaten lunch yet? And so when we do that, that can create a very interesting and artistically impactful counterpoint. So when we're talking about counterpoint, we're talking about 2 or more separate or independent melodies that sound really good when played or sung at the same time. The main purpose of counterpoint is to have 2 separate but equal melodies playing or being sung simultaneously. And you've probably heard this before, that harmony is really just an alternative melody. Separate means that the melody and the harmony lines peak and valley in different places and that they move at different times. And equal simply means that each line is interesting in its own right. And so if those lines were to be played alone, separate from, let's say, the melody, there would be a sufficient sense of melodic contour and interest. Now, I've experienced this myself with harmony parts being super memorable and super catchy. So as I stated in the first video, this past academic year, I worked with a group of teens and I taught them an a cappella singing class. And for their final performance in April, I performed 2 songs with them. And one of those songs was the Moose Butter song, John Williams is the Man. It's that tribute to John Williams. If you're not familiar with it, it's not a new song. But if you're not familiar with it, I would encourage you to check it out because it's pretty darn funny. Loved it. In any case, so 2 months later, I find myself still humming and singing a lot of those different parts, most of which are harmony lines. And I think that to me is a good indicator of well-written counterpoint. When we remember it, when it's memorable, and when our ear is drawn to it without it detracting away from the lead melody. Now I know sometimes we think of harmony as being sort of boring because it's not as in your face and as glamorous as lead melody. But again, if it's a well-written counterpoint, if it's very interesting in terms of how it interacts with that lead melody, it can get stuck in your head for quite some time afterwards, and it can be just as interesting as singing the lead melody. Alright, so let's talk about oblique motion. In oblique motion, essentially, one voice moves while the other remains constant. Feels kind of weird. I don't know what I'm doing there. But basically, I talk with my hands. What can I say? I'm French-Canadian. All right, so basically, this would seem as though, sort of in a surface level, that it would be a very boring harmony part to sing. You're just sort of sitting on one note, right? You don't get the interesting part. But what makes it interesting and artistically effective is that even though you're sitting on that one note, the lead melody line is moving up and down, so that's creating changing relationships between these tones. And that's what keeps it really interesting. A really overt example of oblique harmony can be heard in Do a Deer from The Sound of Music, when the one group of singers is singing Do, Re, Mi, and just sitting on those notes while the other singers are moving around.
Drop of golden sun, a name I call myself,
One more contemporary example of oblique harmony can be heard in the 21 Pilots song Heathens. And the reason why we probably don't pick up on it as being a harmony part per se is because it's sung by a robot. It's actually in that bridge part later on in the song. I've got it marked here about 2 minutes and 44 seconds it's starting. And what we hear is this robot is sitting on that E. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. sits on that note the whole time. And again, it may sound really uninteresting. And then what happens after that little bridge part is the lead singer comes back in, and that little robot continues to sing with this oblique harmony. So listen to this.
When friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask me who you know. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask me who you know.
Alright, so when the lead singer comes back in just a moment, I want you to try to sing that oblique harmony line. So basically, you're going to sing the lyrics that he's singing, but you're going to sit on that E. So you're just going to sing. And what you're going to hear is it actually sounds pretty cool when put together.
Why'd you come? You knew you should have stayed. I tried to warn you just to stay away.
It actually sounds pretty cool, and it's kind of fun to sing. Alright, so I'm going to give you a few more examples of some oblique harmony in songs that you may have heard, just to start, again, drawing your attention to these different types of motions that we hear in counterpoint in harmony. So contrary motion is exactly what it sounds like. Both voices move in opposite directions. So when the lead melody is going down, the harmony is going up, and vice versa. And again, when you mix this with other types of movements, it can create for some really interesting counterpoints, some really interesting harmony lines. Now, I was scouring the internet trying to find some really good examples of contrary motion, and there's a ton of parallel motion. And one of the other struggles I found was that a lot of modern pop and rock doesn't really place much emphasis on harmony. There is some harmony, but it's down so low in the mix that it's really hard, I think, for most people to sort of pick out. It helps to create an interesting texture within the song, but I think for somebody who's just learning harmony, how to sing harmony, it would be a little bit difficult to try to follow along to. So I did try to find some other examples from various genres, and so I'm going to share those with you now. And you'll see just how the voices move in opposite directions, and typically this doesn't happen throughout the song again. It's going to happen just for a note or two here and there.
That's how they showed their respect for Patty Murphy. That's how they showed their honor and their pride. Instead it was a sin and a shame, and they winked at one another. Every drink in the place was full of the night that Murphy died. It was over my head. I know nothing at all. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do.
It's nice to meet you, so I guess I'll go. I best be on my way out.
Alright, so I hope you've been doing your homework. That is, playing some chords and picking out the individual notes within that chord and really training your ears to start listening differently to music to be able to hear those many harmonic possibilities. I don't want to hear any excuses that the dog ate your homework or that some ninja swooped down and stole it. Work on this. Really spend some time developing that ear. That's the only way that you're going to get better at singing harmony. All right, so in lesson 3, I want to take apart the harmony part of a song. And we're going to talk about where it moves in parallel and similar and oblique and contrary motion, and we're going to learn it together, and we're going to hear how it all works in relation to the lead melody. And I also want to give you some ear training exercises to help get you going. And if there's enough interest, if enough of you feel like this is worthwhile to continue and you're getting enough out of this, then I would be happy to record a 4th lesson on this topic, and we'll delve a little bit more deeply into harmony theory and into ways in which we can sort of practically apply that knowledge in order to build really interesting harmony parts. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you again so much for watching. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you'll be notified when I do get the next video up. In the meantime, keep practicing and take care.